at Wheaton Montessori School. And I want to start off by letting you all know that my colleagues and I have two top priorities. One is offering resources so that your children's learning can progress throughout our hiatus. And two is maintaining a sense of community among the children and among our families. So we will be spending Monday and Tuesday deep cleaning the school and also preparing so that whatever lessons can be delivered remotely can happen over the next 2 weeks. And we'll be gathering some other educational resources that are handpicked by the teachers for your children and bringing them to you. Obviously, as Montessori teachers, our lessons are designed to be hands-on, and this is a brand new experience for all of us. But AMI Montessori teachers all over the world are really embracing the technology that is available to us, and they're sharing ideas so that we can quickly adapt lessons and stories for digital delivery. So we have a lot of hope, and we are going to work really hard to see that that can happen. We are also thinking about ways to stay connected with all of you, including how to conduct the remaining parent-teacher conferences. So we'll have much more information for you in a few days. Now, as a parent educator, I did not want to wait to reach out to all of our Wheaton Montessori parents in the event that I could be helpful as you prepare for the next few weeks with your children at home. I also thought that I might be able to provide a little guidance for how to talk to your children about this unprecedented, fast changing, and sometimes frightening situation that we're all experiencing. Before diving in, while I will be coming to you many times over the next 2 weeks to speak to your children, I want to emphasize that this is a talk aimed at parents and will not be appropriate for the kids to listen in. I will ask that you listen to this one out of earshot of the children. And kids, I'll be back next week along with Miss Searcy, Mrs. Burdick, Miss Chisty, Mrs. Carrillo, and Mrs. Rogers, and John, Mark, and Kelly. And we will have some lessons, songs, and stories for you. Okay, so, nope, that did not work. There we go. How to talk to children about what's happening. So, number one, don't assume that they already know anything that's going on. You're going to want to be the one to frame this information for them. You do not want to assume that they've heard about it. Even though it's been talked about a little bit at school, you do not want to assume anything. So some kids will have lots of questions, others won't. And not asking does not necessarily mean that they aren't in need of hearing from you. So I recommend asking them, what have you heard? You might be wondering about this or that, or do you want to talk about something that we just heard on the news? Keep your answers simple, factual, and age appropriate. So I've got some recommendations here on the screen. Hand washing and staying home are helping us stay well. Most people who are infected with the virus won't get very sick. We have healthy immune systems to keep us well and fight those germs. Or we're staying home for a while to help keep the virus from spreading to people who may not have such a strong immune system. I then suggest that you plan to not offer information that your child has not asked for. And if you have known me a while, you've probably heard this story, but it's a good example of how just answering the question that is asked is often the right thing to do. Many years ago at a previous school, during parent-teacher conferences, one of the parents let me know that her 5-year-old had been told by another 5-year-old that if you want to make a baby, you have to take your clothes off. And understandably, this parent was taken aback and a little shocked, and she had the presence of mind to look her child in the eye and say, yes. And he said, okay, and went to play. And she realized that had she, like a lot of us would have said, okay, it's coming earlier than I thought, they're only 5, but okay, I'm ready, I'm going to give the big talk. We might have overloaded that child with more information than he was ready for, when really all he was asking for was, is this true or not? And she answered that question and he was content, and that is all he needed in that moment. And so keep that story in the back of your mind so that you are not unwittingly giving your child more information about the virus and the spread of the virus than they are ready for. We always want, in any time of crisis, we always want to emphasize the helpers. And so I recommend saying to your child that doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers are all doing a great job taking care of the people who get sick. Our job is to stay home a little more during this time so they can focus on the people that need them. And while I'm on the subject, I do want to say thank you to all of our Wheaton Montessori parents who are healthcare workers. I recognize, I can't even begin to imagine what your world is looking like right now. So I just want to say thank you, and that I'm going to do everything that I can to help everybody stay out of your way while you're doing your important work. Next, don't ask your child, are you afraid? Because if they weren't afraid before, that probably will cause them to wonder if they should be. So instead, I suggest asking, what have you heard? What are you thinking about? What's this like for you? Those are good ways to open up the conversation. And then you can respond to what they tell you. I suggest also practicing an exercise that we do in our parenting classes, empathetic or reflective listening, before offering information. And the acronym to remember there is DEAR: detect, empathize, ask, and reflect. So the detection part is just observing and noticing if there's a big change in your child's behavior, if they are more clingy than they normally would be, if they're asking a lot of questions, if there's a change in behavior that they're acting up in ways that they hadn't before. These are all signs that they need a check-in from you, and that they may have some concerns or questions that need some communication with you. And so after you've detected a change in behavior, you can empathize. Oh, it seems like you're upset, or when I see you doing this, I wonder if you're feeling angry or frustrated. And then you can ask, is there something you've been wondering about or worried about? And after they tell you, then you can reflect that back to them. Oh, so you've been hearing a lot about this virus and you're concerned about grandma and grandpa being okay. And after this process, you'll know exactly what it is your child needs. Maybe they need to call grandma and find out that she's okay. The child's feelings get attended to through this process. And it also gives you important information about what it is they're looking for and what they need to feel better. Now, as parents, we cannot expect ourselves to have all the answers, especially at a time like this. It is absolutely okay if they present you with a question and you don't have an answer. It is okay to say, I can't answer that right now, but here's what I know. We're here, we're together, we're safe, and we know what to do to keep ourselves safe. We're going to stay home from school for now, and we're going to wash our hands again. And by reinforcing that idea that, what's going on outside, we may not always understand or have all the answers for, but what we do know is how to keep ourselves safe. And by doing that, we're protecting others. Now, we often as parents feel pressured to have all the answers for our children, and this is one of those times where we just don't. But please know that by providing time for your child to feel listened to and cared for during this time, that is exactly what they need. And you're going to be able to do that for them. And then perhaps most importantly, and it is something we always put at the end of our list, and I cannot help but notice that I have again put it at the end of the list. So that should have probably been first. I want you to carve out time for your own self-care and for your own ability to process what's going on in the world. This is stressful for every one of us. Every parent's job has been affected somehow. And there's been a huge disruption to all of our lives. So I urge you to find ways to decompress, whether it is exercise, meditation, music, leisure activities, whatever it is, and go for those things that you know help you feel better, and make sure you take some time for that every day, because it's necessary for you to take that time for yourself, so that when things do get stressful, when new information comes down that we have to quickly respond to, or when your child is ratcheting up the tension or the anxiety, you have those resources to handle that situation, because you've been taking care of yourself all along. And fortunately, much of the advice that I have that for preparing the kids for several weeks at home is also going to be beneficial to the adults in the home. So that I hope that will help. Also, please make sure you are processing your adult fears with other adults. Watch out for your little pitchers, the eavesdropping. Rudolf Dreikurs has a wonderful quote that children are excellent listeners and poor interpreters. You need opportunities to express your own worry, your uncertainty, your anger, your fear with caring and supportive adults. But we have to make sure that what our children hear from us about this situation is well thought out and calm. But by taking good care of yourself during this time, you are modeling that self-care for your children. And by processing your own fears and anxieties with other adults, you will be ready to help your children when they need you. There is a link at the bottom. I don't think you can click on that link, but I will attach it somehow when this video is posted, so that you'll be able to go to that document. And that is a document that was provided to us with just basically what I just said, but a little more detail. Okay, so school's closed. Now what? Well, first of all, you are more than likely going to be working, and probably remotely, which may or may not be what you're used to or what's ideal for your work, with your children at home. So this could be a recipe for disaster on a typical workday, but with most people's jobs being heavily impacted by the changing situation, this could potentially mean that work will be quite intense for many of you. The last thing you need in that situation is an overtired child throwing a fit in the background of your conference call. So the good news is you already know your children very, very well. And by taking the time now to identify some of the likely triggers of behavior and the strategies that you already know work for them, you can feel a lot more prepared when those moments arise during the next few weeks at home. So take a few moments now to reflect on your children. What kinds of situations make them nervous or anxious? When do they tend to get overstimulated? And how do they typically respond to changes in routine? Now, think about what responses have worked well for each of your children in the past. You already know a lot of things that you do that help them in times of stress and worry. It will be a big help to you to take a moment to identify them now. Make a crib sheet and stick it on the inside of a cupboard door, and then you can access it when you need it. And if you want to add some new time-tested and Fortun-approved strategies to your repertoire, I will direct you to the book that you see below, How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk. I know you own a copy and it's sitting on your nightstand or it's loaded up on your Kindle. I think now is the time for you to take a look inside, and it will really give you some helpful things that you can add to what you already know works for your children. Please keep in mind, it is very normal for children to need extra contact with you during a time of change and stress. You might have one of those children who tend to be anxious anyway. Take a moment to think about your child. Do they often ask a lot of questions when there's something unusual on the schedule, like being picked up early from school for a doctor's appointment, or when plans change, like when you're supposed to go to a friend's house and then the friend calls and cancels? Are they upset by that? Do they ask a lot of questions? Asking you a lot of questions is a sign that they need reassurance. So prepare yourself to be ready to patiently answer those questions and then offer a positive distraction, ideally an activity that is done together. So you could take the dog for a walk around the block together. You could rummage around in a cupboard to see if you can find a different puzzle or something that hasn't been out in a while that will generate some interest. You could cook together. Something done together provides that reassurance that they're looking for and will be the most effective means of helping them when they are asking a lot of questions. So we're going to prepare for a change in our routine, which I am calling redesigning normalcy. Routine is very important to children. And if you think about your last family vacation, by the 4th or 5th day of, less sleep and more activity and different food, you can probably picture what I'm getting at. So it is really important that we don't frame this period of, what shall we call it, a hiatus from school. We should not frame it as like a snow day or an extended spring break, because everyone in the family is going to feel less disrupted if as much of the normal routine as possible is maintained. So sure, once in a while, you're going to stay in your PJs all day and have popcorn for dinner and all bets are off, and that's fine, once in a while. But I really encourage you not to start off this break without a routine in place, because it will bite you in the end. So a big part of keeping behavior consistent and keeping emotions regulated is to keep eating, sleeping, moving, and keep some mental stimulation going on a fairly consistent schedule. And so I like the idea of redesigning normalcy. So take a few moments now to think about your typical weekday routine. What parts of that routine can be kept? What parts will have to be set aside during the school closure? Obviously, it's not just school that they're missing. If activities have also been canceled and so forth, you'll have to keep all of that in mind. But once you know the parts of your daily routine that you can continue for the next 2 weeks, for instance, you can still get up at or near the same time. You can get dressed, you can have breakfast. Once you've identified those things, you can start identifying things that will add in to replace the activities that have temporarily stopped. For instance, instead of, after breakfast, we head out the door to go to school, maybe we all take the dog for a walk or do a little exercise together before we settle into online work and online school. And a few things that I want you to keep in mind as we sketch out this new normal. Keep limits more or less intact. So, for example, if young children are used to 30 minutes of fun screen time, I'm separating that from the online school, which will now be done via screens. So if they're used to 30 minutes of screen time in the evenings, you might relax that limit a little bit. Maybe they get 45 minutes, maybe they get an hour, maybe they get 30 minutes in the, late morning and another 30 in the evening. But I don't advise suddenly allowing unlimited screen time. Once it's granted, it is very hard to pull back. And obviously, all of you are probably going to be in a situation where you have a very important meeting and you really need to make sure they're occupied. And then you can kind of pull out the iPad and at that time. But if you start off with that as an everyday thing, you're going to be, I don't want to be threatening, but you're going to be sorry. So try if you can to keep those limits as close to the normal ones as possible. Okay, consider starting the day or ending the day or both with a family meeting. Children always do better when they know what to expect. So this family meeting can be a time for sharing what you've been working on, what you are grateful for. It's a good opportunity to say, hey, I noticed that you fed the dog this morning without being asked, or you unloaded the dishwasher for me, and I really appreciated that. It can be a time for brainstorming more ideas for activities to add to the routine. It can be a time for problem solving. If something isn't going well and you need to enlist their help, at a family meeting, either in the morning or in the evening, provides a perfect time for all of those things to happen. And the children will really appreciate knowing day to day what they can expect. Don't forget to include a few age-appropriate responsibilities for the children to do around the house. And of course, these will vary by age, and I have a feeling that the teachers will be sending out some lists of ideas for you for how children can help around the home. But primary children absolutely love helping, and they already know how to sweep, they know how to fold, they know how to wash tables. You can guarantee some really enthusiastic help from your primary students. And it's a very good way to keep them busy. Elementary children are very capable and they have a lot of skills, and they're very willing to help, especially if it's done with you. So you can look for opportunities, throughout the day for your elementary child to help you prepare meals. They can help load and unload the dishwasher. They can do laundry. And again, especially if they feel that they're doing it with you, they're going to be very willing to help. Your adolescents, it may not be the foremost thing on their mind to jump in and help out, but they will absolutely understand if you explain that, hey, with all of us at home for several weeks, there's going to be more dishes, there's going to be more laundry, and there's going to be more cleaning that needs to be done, and we really will need your help. And they will absolutely understand that, and they will be willing to jump in. I think the key to all of that is making sure that the children know in advance what's going to be expected of them. That tends to work better. And again, that's another, vote for the family meeting in the morning, because you've probably all experienced what happens when you ask for that help on the fly and they're already in the middle of something that they're focused on. So again, just preparing them for what will be expected is going to be a huge, huge help to you. I really, really, really want to encourage you to establish news detox and phone detox times on your daily schedule. Children who are old enough to have their own phones should really be part of the process of deciding on when those detox times or screen dark times are going to happen. You are really modeling for them that taking a break from the constant flood of news, and it's not just the news, but it's also extended family members and friends who are checking in to see what you're up to and are you okay and giving you updates. That's stressful too. And so taking a break from that is important. And so one idea that I have for you is to have a basket or a bowl where all of the screens go from 5:30 to 7 while you prepare dinner and eat and clean up as a family. But you'll come up with a time that works for you. And another great idea comes from Ellen Mendel. I want you to look for ways to keep it fun. So you'll see that you have a lovely photo of my bathroom there. And the idea is to put a Post-it note on the mirror above the sink where everyone will be washing their hands 1,000 times, and put a little joke on there, or a short story, or a poem, or a song, the lyrics to a song. You could, if you saw some of the parodies that are online about songs you can use for hand washing, you might, put a few of those lyrics on there. You can change it up regularly to keep it fun. You can have different family members take turns putting something over the sink. It's just cheerful and it's silly, and we need that. So there's a good idea for you. Okay. There's Daisy. So you are understandably concerned about what will happen to your children's education with this extended break, and so are we. All of my colleagues at Wheaton Montessori are working on how to deliver online educational content as well as community opportunities during the closure. So there will be a lot more to come on that next week. That said, you are truly your child's first and most important teacher. Your children are highly attuned to what you do and say. How you approach this time at home will have a significant impact on them. By prioritizing good sleep routines, nourishing food prepared and enjoyed together, healthy physical activity, and lots of time for communication and listening and sharing stories, you have an opportunity here to teach your children a lot about the most important things in life during this time. And this unprecedented situation provides us all with some opportunities to get to some of those activities on our "we've always wanted to do this" list. For example, many parents in parent-teacher conferences tell me how frustrated they are that they know family meal times are so important, but activities often get in the way. Well, this is the perfect time to start establishing some routines around mealtime. And perhaps you can keep some of them going once real life starts back up. Finally, I just want to say, if you are feeling uncertainty because we aren't sure how long we're going to be in this situation, frustration at the lack of clarity in the information we're getting, you might be feeling anger when we see negligence or when others place their comfort and safety over ours. I'm talking to you toilet paper hoarders out there. And you may be feeling some fear because we aren't quite sure how much worse this is going to get before it gets better. You are not alone. And I hope you know that your children's teachers and your administration at Wheaton Montessori is going to keep partnering with you throughout this school closure. Let's keep posting on the Facebook page just to stay connected and stay in touch with each other. And I hope you will be ready to hear a lot more from us in the next few days. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you soon.